Thank you for listening to Discovering the Scriptures with Dr. Peter John Parisis. Currently, we are in Daniel chapter 6, verse 20. Reading from the King James Bible first, quote, "And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God, whom thou servest continually, able to deliver thee from the lions?" Unquote. Let us go to prayer and ask God for wisdom and instruction. Father, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to study your word. And Lord, as we're here, we're relying on you and trusting on you to give us what we need to help us to hear the Holy Spirit, our teacher, that he may give us the proper wisdom and instruction and knowledge. I ask that he would. Please, in Jesus' name I pray. And Lord, at the end of this prayer, as always, a moment of silence, out of respect to you, and asking that you would answer back. Please do so. Okay. Need more time, hit the pause button. Okay, now let's look at this in the Young's Literal Translation. Quote, "And at his coming near to the den, to Daniel, with a grieved voice he crieth, The king hath answered and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, thy God, whom thou art serving continually, is he able to deliver thee from the lions?" Unquote. Now, let's take a look at this verse that we're studying in context, in the paragraph that is written. Starting out with Daniel 6, verse 18, and it goes through this verse, the 20th. King James Version, quote, "Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. Neither were instruments of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning, and went in haste unto the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God, whom thou servest continually, able to deliver thee from the lions?" Now, let's go back into our tools, and let's go ahead and parse out this verse. Because we have this king talking about God, let's see what's the meaning of it all. And when he came, okay, let's parse that out in the Aramaic. It's the PL stem, so casually written, infinitive aspect, so an ing. To the den he cried, parse that. PL stem, casually written, perfect aspect, complete. With a lamentable, parse that. PL stem, casually written, participle aspect to be. Voice, until unto Daniel, and the king spake. Let's parse that. PL stem, participle aspect, casually written to be. Continuing, and said. PL stem, participle aspect. So still casually written in to be. To Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God, whom thou servest. PL stem, participle aspect. Casually written to be. Continually, able. Let's parse that. PL stem, perfect aspect. So that means that casually written and complete. To deliver, parse that. PL stem. So remember that there is the reflective, passive, intense form. Reflective, passive. And of course, infinite aspect, so it's an ing. To deliver, passive, delivering thee from the lions. Now that ends the parsing of this verse. Let's go ahead and look at John Gill's commentary on this and do our observation. Quote, "And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel, expressing grief and sorrow his heart was full of. It was rather like howling than speaking. Thus he cried before he saw Daniel, or heard him speak. when he was near to the den, as it may be rendered. And he was between hope and fear about Daniel's safety, when within sight of the den and hearing of Daniel, should he be alive to speak. But when he came nearer and saw him, then the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, art thou alive? This is a plain case that the God whom thou servest is the living God, since he has saved thee, and that thou art a true and faithful servant of his, seeing he has wrought such deliverance for thee. Is thy God whom thou servest continually able to deliver thee from the lions? Has he made it to appear that he is able to deliver from them? Has he really done the thing? He could scarcely believe for joy, being filled with amazement, for these words are not to be considered as expressive of any doubt or hesitation he had of the power of God to save him. For he had declared he had been, yea, his confidency that he would deliver him, but of his wonder and admiration at it, the thing being so extraordinary and amazing. Unquote. All right, folks, remember that I told you that Daniel went from Hebrew, started out his book in Hebrew, and then he went to Aramaic, the court language, in the second chapter, continues that through to part of chapter 7, and goes back into the Hebrew. He's known for his prophetic writings for the last days, to which we are going to be part of, more than likely. So why this story? Why is he writing all these things? We see that he says earlier to pray 3 times daily. 3 times daily, even in the midst of fierce opposition and possible, the death of his life. We see that. And yet here, Daniel shows us that God is indeed the God that's able to deliver even through the lions that might destroy you. Because this is what this king is saying. Is your God able to do so? Daniel's not putting that in there for no other reason than to show us that, yes, we all might be facing the end times and terrible, terrible times. Just like he was in his captivity, with 119 rulers trying to kill him. But yet, God is able to save you during this time frame. If you ever want to find out how great God is, get a hold of the books on Hudson Taylor in China and read his early ministry years, where the bombs are going off and destroying buildings next to him. The bombs hurling right past him. And yet they never touched him. God kept him safe. He is, I believe, showing us this verse to let us know that God is able to keep us alive and well, even through the threat of the lions and the threat of people going after us. He is able. Stay tuned. Let's find out what more we can get out of this chapter as we go verse by verse, and then we hit the last days, the end time prophecies in this book. God bless you.